All the second stage tanks now pressurized. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with bite.
Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 407. Do not go quietly. Now you'll see on the screen this article is a year old, but they're actually voting on this now. So we're gonna read this article today, and then I have other information. We're gonna look at the bill. We will have to look at mental capacity because that's mentioned in the bill. It's a bit insidious, and we are also going to look at this article. So our order is probably going to be the British article first, the Canadian article second, and then the British bill. And we may do some comparisons between that and the Canadian bill, but I don't expect to get that far all in one show. Obviously, this will be a few shows as we read about this. But that's what we're up to right now. So it's going to be a difficult discussion. But I have some of the best people with me to discuss this. I'm your host, Hannah Wallen, here with Nonsense Annihilator, Lauren Brooks.
It is hot, and I am perimenopausal, and I am sick of all of your shit. So let's have a good show, people.
We have the personification of perceptivity, Mike Stevenson.
I don't know how to follow that. Hola, fucking salute, willkommen. Hello, everyone.
We have Richard.
It is quite fucking hot. It
is hot. We have Richard the Lionhearted.
Sorry for today's topic, but it was important to me.
Yeah, it's all Richard's fault. He drew my attention to this, and it's yet another country doing this, and I've been talking about this in the background a lot. So there we go. And we have the Doge in charge, Brian Martinez, working in the background to make everything happen. But before we get into it, we've got a few things. And before we get into a few things, we got to do what we got to do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences both recent and long past have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platform's tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content, as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. And I also have some super chats from, I don't know if are these super chats or super chows, Brian? I don't know if he's going to answer me. They look like super chows.
They're super chows.
Okay. Oh, I see it. There we go. Okay, so these are in the show chat, and they're a little condensed. But on 6/18/2026 at 8:48 p.m., we missed one. This is one that I think I couldn't see. Atheism question for Doc. If Allison says reverse traditionalism is incoherent but also necessary, does that make reverse traditionalism a religion? Religion is the only other thing I've heard described as both of those things.
I don't quite know what reverse traditionalism is. I guess traditionalism is doing things we've always done for the sake of always doing them. So reverse traditionalism is doing the opposite of those things, because it's Gnosticism, basically, which, yes, is religious. As religious as anything. Well, certainly as religious as traditionalism, but there are lots of different facets to traditionalism. I mean, circumcision is traditional, and I certainly oppose that. But fidelity is also traditional, and I'm in favor of that. So I don't. That's I need a lot more information on what that is before I can answer that. But
that's a bit different.
But yes, and anti-religion is just as religious as religion, because it's playing on the same chessboard, if you will. I hope that answers your question.
Well, I hope so too. We have another one. This one is Tuesday, the 16th, and that was at 7:41 p.m. And let's see, the last one. Oh, there's the price. So the last one was $5, and this one was $5. It says, Doc, if you have a PO box, or if you trust me with your address, I have a bunch of cool shit to send you, like how I'm sending Allison my NES. I can send you a $300 silver Zippo lighter, an unused Japanese pocket ashtray, and tons of other shit. I'm a quick chance on your subscribe star if you want to PM me a place to send it.
Oh, that's so nice.
That's very sweet.
That sounds awesome, but I don't have a PO box, and maybe I should get one, and I'm not willing to put out my address to it. Just send it to
Send it
Alison.
here.
You could send it to Lauren's place if she's willing to give her address, and I wouldn't ask her to do that. But if you've already got Alison's address, just send it to Allison, and I guess I'll pick it up next time we have a meeting. Are we having a Badger meetup this summer like we did last year?
Yes, I am still working on a location. I have one place in mind. We will, whatever we do, because things have heated up a little bit again this year, at least online, I think that we'll probably start out at Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum, because that's on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and also because the museum itself is of interest, at least to the men's issues part of the group. But I haven't solidified anything just yet, so over the weekend I will do more research, and I should be able to.
So I need to get a passport.
There you go. You might want to do it soon, because the time frame I'm looking at is the end of August.
Are you planning on having it in the US?
Yes.
A lot of Canadians won't come down, including Allison. I think Allison has decided never to come to the US ever again. So that wouldn't solve the problem that the super chat is presenting. But we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Sure we will.
But there will be a mixed up meetup. I don't know what else is on the docket in terms of travel and stuff like that. That's the only one that I am really in charge of planning, because it's my meetup. But yeah, I've had some people suggest Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's is the Sam's Club of convenience stores. It's probably the best way to put it for the Americans. I'm not sure if there's anything in the UK that's the same. It's huge. They have.
I don't think we've got anything like that in the UK.
Yeah, it's really it's neat. Probably should take people there anyway. But I was thinking more in terms of a sit down and relax kind of place. But we'll see. We'll see. We have some chatter going on in the our chat for it, so we'll see what comes of that. But whatever we do, I still plan for it to start at the museum for some pretty obvious reasons. So, also, we do have some it looks like we have some super chows in the middle of the night yesterday. And I don't know if anybody got a chance to read them or not. So we got one from Edwin Richard for $20 who says, can't thank you guys enough for what you do. Some extra food for the badger. Om nom nom. Om nom nom nom. We got 3 noms. There were 5 things that convinced me something was seriously wrong. 1, feminist academia promoting overtly misandric ideas, like reducing the male population to 10% of the human race, with no real signs of remorse, apology, or even slowing down. 2, Cassie J's The Red Pill documentary. 3, Warren Farrell's books, The Boy Crisis and The Myth of Male Power. 4, Paul Nathanson's and Catherine Young's books, Spreading Misery, Legalizing Misandry, Replacing Misandry, and Sanctifying Misandry. And 5, Honey Badger Radio, including Prim Reaper's analysis of the APA guidelines for men and boys. At some point, it stops being coincidence and it becomes pattern. And Zapier gave us $5 and didn't say anything. So we don't know if there was supposed to be a comment attached to that or not. But that was at 1:41 a.m. So well, thank you both. And with that, we will get to the topic at hand. There are some points I'm going to make before we actually read the article. One of them is that whenever we talk about male suicide in particular, feminists always like to, and it's not even always feminists, it's women. Women will jump to this, and women's defenders, feminists, jump to this one statistic that they're always shouting at us. And they always have sources, and they're always authoritative sources, saying that women attempt more than men. Women attempt suicide significantly more than men, or twice as often as men, or 3 times as often as men. Different sources say different amounts. However, the majority of deaths by suicide are men and boys. And unfortunately, all too often, it's nothing like what this bill is being sold to us as. This is what it's going to be. They're not dying already. They're not fearing that their death is going to be more painful than it has to be. A lot of times they're in a situation that they don't think they can live with. And sometimes you get very short-sighted. I was in a situation I didn't think I could live with when I was 13 years old. And honestly, the only thing that stopped me at that point was that my parents would have been devastated. And I could see it in my head, how much I would be hurting them if I did that. And so I found that I did have the courage to face what I was dealing with at the time. And I didn't face it in a particularly healthy way, necessarily. But I did put a stop to the problem. And I did move on. But people will make this decision, and they'll prepare for months until they have everything in place. They feel like they're ready to go. And they won't change their mind unless somebody can talk them out of it, or something changes in their lives. And once you've made the decision, you get this lightness that it's like you don't have to worry about anything anymore because you're not going to be there, right? You feel like that. So you can be cheerful all the time. You can be happy. You can be light on your feet. Joke about things that you wouldn't joke about. Not dread things that you would normally dread, because what do you care? You're going to be gone. And it sucks to go into that stage and then realize that you can't do it because of what you're really doing is just transferring your pain to the people who love you the most. And then it all comes crashing back on. And you're like, I'm going to have to deal with this shit. I'm going to have to deal with all of this. And it's better to not plan it in the first place. But unfortunately, that's being dangled in front of people all over the world now.
Yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
There is a shred of credibility to this when it comes to people who are actually terminally ill with actually 6 months to live, and they are guaranteed to face 6 months of extreme pain, or however many years of extreme pain,
or choke to death like ALS does.
And yeah, maybe it's they should have the right to take their lives into their own hands. And do you know, my parents have been enthusiastic about this ever since they found out about it. And like, oh, that would be nice. And I'm like, okay, guys, just don't let them convince you to die. And I tried to explain to them what's been going on in Canada, because boomers who listen to the television have no idea what oikophobic horrors are happening in Canada and Australia, like as a test before they roll it out to the rest of the Anglosphere, and I don't know what to point people towards when it comes to Canada, other than it. I think it's now the leading cause of death, or is one of the leading causes of death in Canada. The government killing you, and like nobody trusts the government. When you ask people, when you press them on it for even a moment, they go, "Of course I don't trust the government. Heavens to Betsy, no, something Trump and all that shit." But then when it comes to your life and your health, people go, "Oh yeah, that's fine. I if the government tells me that my health is in the can and I should die, then absolutely I'll believe them." Why would they lie? And I have to remind them that our health system doesn't. It's different from the American health system in terms of it's not driven by profit. Being driven by profits not an ideal situation, but when you have an NHS, when you have a government-run health service, the way they make money is by not having to pay to keep people alive. If you see what I mean. So when it comes to any government-operated national health service, it is in their financial interests to kill people, because then they won't have to pay to keep them alive. And for all the shit people say about the American healthcare system, at least over there, I should say over here because I'm over here now, at least it's in their interests to keep their patients alive, albeit on all manner of fucking pills and shit, and that's a whole other thing. But this is really the acid test when it comes to government-run health services. They do things for financial incentives just as much as any private healthcare service. But like I said, their incentives lie in just having fewer customers, or whatever the word is. It's in their financial interests that no one is coming to them with any health problems. And so, of course, they're going to jump on the opportunity to just kill people rather than giving them drugs and surgeries for 10, 20 years towards the end of their life. And like I said, there are some cases where that's for the best. But again, you look to Canada, and oh no, you got a fucking boo-boo on your finger. Let's kill you. I'm not even exaggerating all that much. It's you need a fucking stair lift. Let's kill you. Oh dear, you had some kind of mysterious injury from a series of injections you had around 2021. Oh well, there's nothing we can do about it. Let's kill you. And it all lines up as something really quite sinister, doesn't it? I mean, downright evil, really. For everything that can be said about how sister dying can be a good thing, it falls by the wayside compared with what the government will do because it hates people, because it hates the people it's supposed to be serving. That's the world we live in now, especially in Western countries, especially in the Anglosphere. Like, we are ruled by machines that are programmed to hate us. And that includes the health service. The health service is run by machines that hate us. And they want us dead. I know it sounds exaggerated that these people hate us and want us dead. And I say people, but these machines hate us and want us dead. These machines are run by people, so it's difficult to describe. But it is a machine, the cogs of which are civil servants. And yeah, as much as you hate the government, you don't hate them enough. Because you're gonna see them do shit. You're gonna see them do the shit that Canada's done. And it's probably gonna be even worse in the UK. I mean, Canada leads the way. Canada is the scout into this oikophobia that they call progress. But when the UK gets hold of it, they're gonna take it from novice to expert. They're gonna kill millions of us. They're gonna convince millions of us that we need to die. And it's gonna be fucking awful. And I don't know how to get through to the boomers because they believe everything the TV tells them.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. It sucks and it's kind of scary.
The difficult thing with the older generations is a lot of them are at the age where even if they don't get Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or one of the illnesses that starts to kill your brain before your body dies, they have all their organs are also old, and all of their organs are less efficient than they used to be. And so your brain gets less oxygen, your brain gets less nutrients, and so on. Your circulation might not even be as good as it used to be. And you get this slowing down of responses as you age. So you might not be as quick off the cuff. And if somebody hits you with a bunch of doublespeak, you might not fully understand what they say, even if you're not senile. During the lead up to the Holocaust, this is one of the things that was being done to older people in Germany. And they were exterminating them, like anybody that was old and infirm, by rapid fire questioning them or asking them questions loaded with a bunch of doublespeak or buzzwords or just making them as convoluted as possible, where you have so many details in one question that the person, by the end of the question, the person can't remember what you were asking. And then if they were deemed feeble-minded or inept, senile, because of that, then they would be put to death. And they treated it like people treat putting animals to sleep. And it seems rather connected in my view that this is the way it's starting with medical assistance in dying. What's different with Canada that specifically makes it, particularly insidious and dangerous is that they have two different tracks for medical assistance in dying. If you have an illness that, like, you've basically got a death sentence from your doctor, and it's not going to be a peaceful die in your sleep kind of death. It's going to be something awful, like I said with ALS. Your throat slowly becomes paralyzed until you suffocate. It collapses and you choke to death. It's horrible. And it's probably the most used diagnosis by proponents in discussing this type of bill. Cancer can be very, very painful. That's another one. My particular, I don't know what to call it, iteration of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, the one with the weak blood vessels, basically. Ehlers-Danlos is a connective tissue disorder. It usually causes joint hypermobility, and I do have a significant amount of that as well. I can put my hip out walking across the room by accident now. I can put it back though, so it's all right so far. But people like me, when we get older, we start to have brain bleeds and mini strokes. I saw my grandma go down that road. It looks like Alzheimer's on fast forward. Really fast forward. Like Alzheimer's can take 10 to 20 years. This took 2. So, it people will, the suffering that can happen from that, it can be similar to neuropathy. If you have certain types of brain damage, you can cause things to not work properly. It can cause things to fire off improperly. People will choose death rather than face those types of pain. And it's understandable that people will do that. It's understandable that somebody might not want to go through the type of suffering if you get cancer of the spinal cord, which can happen, or brain cancer, which can happen. And that also can cause pain nerves to fire off with no real cause other than the fact that, something in the tumor is touching it. But the other track is natural death not reasonably foreseeable. That's the other direction. It has stricter safeguards, allegedly. It's got a 90-day assessment period, which you can waive if capacity loss is imminent. So, in other words, someone like me, if I was Canadian, starts having mini strokes and I've already lost a little capacity, and they're telling me, "Oh, this is going to get worse. You've probably got about 2 years. Maybe you could live longer than that. We don't have a specific when you're going to pass from this, but you are going to lose your mind." Right? That's track 2. And that's pretty much telling somebody to kill themselves to make things easier on their family. And it's been used on people with depression, schizophrenia. There's another story that we're going to look at in a few days. This one, Vancouver woman offered MAID, which they're not supposed to even be bringing it up. She's supposed to ask them. But Vancouver woman offered MAID before receiving any treatment at hospital. They had her diagnosis. She had a broken hip. She had a fractured hip. It wasn't going to kill her. But we'll go over the whole story at that time. People with chronic pain. Some people with Ehlers-Danlos have profound joint pain. Absolutely horrible. And it would be very tempting for some people to just end it in that circumstance, especially if they're like me and they can't take pain meds. So there's a lot more to this than just the side that gets presented by the people that have sympathy for people who are suffering and dying. And they want to make it so that dying doesn't have to involve suffering. We will go over that a little more with regard to the article here. But the last thing I want to get into, I had started to talk about the difference in suicides. There's evidence, and we might go over that as well a little briefly, but we're not going to do it today because I don't have the research open in my browser. But there is evidence that a significant amount of the time when women are recorded as having attempted suicide, they were not attempting suicide. They were self-harming as a means of getting somebody to stop ignoring a problem or something that they viewed as a problem. So suicide, you're trying to kill yourself. If you're not trying to kill yourself, even if you self-harm in a way that could kill you, if you're not trying to kill yourself, that's not being suicidal. It's one of those where women jump in and say, "Oh, women attempt so much more than men. Men are the ones dying from it." And if you really look at that set of attempts, they're not all attempts. So really, the statistic that matters the most is who's dying. And the other thing is there's a very high rate, and not just in men and boys, but also in people with treatable mental health conditions. A lot of them men, people with gender dysphoria, a lot of them biologically male, who identify as female and then discover that transitioning does not help them with the gender dysphoria. People with chronic physical pain. A lot of people end up in chronic physical pain after they have had an injury at work. Most people with injuries in the workplace are men. People with other treatable disabilities, it's not as common for women as for men. The highest rate of suicide that I noted, just having Grok do a search for statistics for me, men comprise 75% of suicide deaths. The highest rate is in middle-aged men, but and that's age, like it's cited age 40 to 54 at around 25 to 27 per 100,000. But when you drop down to men with treatable disabilities, it's 48 per 100,000. So men with treatable disabilities are quite a bit, almost twice as likely. There's higher rates among divorcees than non-divorcees. Yeah, it's mostly linked to social isolation, socioeconomic status, substance abuse, long-term illness, pain, and again, it's mostly men. So we live in a society that does not have compassion on the same level for men, or much at all, as it does for women. And this is, in my opinion, this is the result.
Mine was linked to chronic illness, substance abuse, and what was the other one?
Disability.
And disability. Yeah.
Yeah, and that one, like I said, it's that affects a lot more than just being an average guy. So for the listeners, if you know somebody that's close to you that's in any of those circumstances, just make sure you check in on them periodically. And if their whole attitude toward life suddenly changes, check harder. Go on. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to something I said earlier about taking your life into your own hands. I don't want to misconstrue anything. That's still illegal. Taking your own life on your own terms is still a crime.
Illegal.
Which always seemed bizarre to me that when I first heard about this when I was a kid, that suicide is illegal. I was like, wait, what? How? How do you enforce that? Because it's only when people actually go through with it and actually successfully die, for want of a better phrase, that they've actually committed the crime. Like, if it's unenforceable, then why is that even on the books? But it's obvious.
It's illegal to attempt, actually.
Well, it's because it's destruction of government property is the joke. Yeah. But it's not just a joke. It's very much true. You belong to the government, and you are not allowed to take that life into your own hands, because that life does not belong to you. It belongs to the government. The only thing that's changing here is the government.
Yeah. There is another bit
to kill you.
There's another bit to look at there, though. If you attempt on your own, like at home or in a public place or whatever, wherever you go to try to do it, you are also creating a public nuisance. Right? That's the one way that the law might look at it. Another thing that they might be doing is let's say the goal is to preserve life. We never trust that the government has a goal that altruistic, but these laws were written back when the logic "spare the rod, spoil the child" was prevalent, meaning that you deter behavior that you want to prevent by using punishment. So if somebody stops you in a suicide attempt, and you get punished because you attempted, you might not try again, and you might not create another public nuisance. I don't know if that's necessarily fair to say that would really be that effective, because like I said, there's a different mindset when you're 100% certain that you're going to die. The way that things that are a threat to you, when you're 100% certain that you're going to face tomorrow, or at least 99.9 repeating percent certain that you're going to face tomorrow and the next tomorrow and all the tomorrows after that for a long time, there are things that can threaten you that you just don't care about if you're 100% certain you're going to die, because you're not going to have to face those things. Somebody else is. And if you've ever looked at life that way, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, this might not make sense to you. But unless you have a overactive conscience, or at least a very active conscience, it becomes very hard. It's very hard to deter somebody. I've had to do that too, and you really kind of have to shake the shit out of them in a way to get them to walk back from that edge. But in any case, yeah, I don't think sending people to jail would work. But the other thing that the law does is the state can't send you to a mental health institution unless you've broken a law. Like, that's something
The
that
UK can.
Well, yeah, they can. They might actually have a law for that. They might consider you broke some law or another. their laws are so. In the UK, if you say the wrong thing, you've broken the law, right? If somebody thinks the wrong thing about you, you've broken the law. So it's pretty hard to say. I'm sure everybody in the UK has broken some law or another by now, just on those based on those two things. If you're somebody's wrong think boogeyman, you've broken the law, and if you're somebody's demographic boogeyman, you've broken the law. So there you go. But in a lot of countries, the state won't put you in a mental health institution unless you've broken the law, like involuntarily. They won't put you in involuntary. If you volunteer, and you can prove that you need treatment, they'll pay for it if you're disabled. But they won't come to your house, round you up, and drag you off. The nice young men in their clean white coats will not come to take you away unless you've broken a law that demonstrates that you're a threat to yourself or other people. So they have to make suicide illegal so that you can be on the wrong side of the law if you try to kill yourself, and they can put you in a mental health institution in the hopes that you will get the help that you need and you won't try that again. We have a Rumble rant from Roboto 1234567. Actually, we have 2 Rumble rants that I see from Roboto. We have, if a person has 6 months, no one should be trying to keep them alive and allowing the right to life everyone is entitled to. If the family cares, they will show it. Yeah, if they give you a terminal diagnosis, I don't know how things work in other countries, but in the US, what they do when they give you a terminal diagnosis and they say, this is it, your condition is no longer treatable, you are now on something called comfort care. What comfort care is, they do everything they can to make you comfortable, but they don't take any heroic measures to keep you alive. If you need treatment to prolong your life, you don't get that treatment. So if you were on chemo, you're not on chemo anymore, but they will give you pain medicine, and you can eat and drink for as long as you're capable. But if you stop being capable, they're not going to give you a feeding tube or an IV drip of fluids unless your medical plan says, I don't want to die of dehydration because it's painful. You have, like, you lay out all of the things that they can and can't do. They'll usually have hospice care come in, and hospice, like, people look at me and my job working with people with intellectual disabilities and, oh, you're an angel, no, I'm just a worker. People who do hospice care are angels because they have to lose people at every job they go to. And they care for these people. And when you are a caregiver, a professional caregiver, you develop an attachment. There's no way to not do that. You want to make sure this person is comfortable and as content as they can be. There's no detaching yourself from that. You can be as clinical about it as you want. It still hurts when you lose somebody. And even if it's somebody that you've only known for a couple of weeks. And so those people really are angels. But they will go in, and anything you can't do for yourself, anything you want help with, like, it can be anything from helping you to continue to eat and bathe and stuff like that to making sure, that any housekeeping that needs done is done. And just depending on what role they fill in hospice is. So it's not like they don't prolong life unless there's something of a chance, right? And Roboto 1234567 goes on and says hospice. Each of these were for $1. Says hospice would be king in such matters. Many methods to reverse it. Some one has to do their own research. And actually, sometimes being helpless is enough that hospice will come in. You don't have to be departing in 6 months, right? Or 2 weeks or whatever. Sometimes they don't have a date for you. Sometimes it's better if they don't give you a date. I mean, they gave me a date and I'm still here. So, Senior Sticks 3011 gave us $2 and said, Mike, good chance for England versus USA. What say you?
Are we talking about football?
I'm assuming because I don't, and it's probably not American football.
No, I mean the sport where you.
The one that we call soccer over here.
Yes. Well, dive grass is the best name for it. I mean, American football is hand egg, and British football is dive grass.
That's funny.
Yeah, sorry, I don't talk about football. But maybe I will if there's an England versus USA, because I have allegiances to both of those countries. But I'm still going to remain quiet until someone wins, and then I'll gloat no matter what happens.
There you go.
They got to get past Mexico Monday.
Yeah.
Mexico's pretty good.
Let's see, that is all of our super chows, all of our super chats, and our Rumble rants. So we can actually get into the article now, 48 minutes after the start of the show. So the article is a year old, but the subject isn't there. And this article was referenced to me by someone, and I saw some other articles, but I kind of liked the coverage of this one better, because a lot of the articles were very brief, probably because this has been talked about for a few years. So some of this information is a bit old, but if I skip a paragraph, that's why. But aside from that, a lot of it isn't. Terminally ill people in England and Wales are to be given the right to an assisted death in a historic societal shift that will transform end-of-life care. So you could tell already they're for this. After months of argument, MPs narrowly voted in favor of a private member's bill introduced by Labour's Kim Ledbetter. Maybe that's Beater. We would say better here in the US, though. Which could become law within 4 years. Well, it's looking like it might become law more within 1 year. The emotional debate in Parliament was dominated by pleas from opponents of the bill for stricter safeguards against coercion by abusers, concern from disabled people, and warnings about the fundamental change in the power of the state when granted new rights over life and death. And now, again, at the time, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, voted in favor of the bill. So,
of course he did. Of course he fucking did.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to make sure there's representation in these numbers, because we've seen things in Canada there's a certain demographic that's overrepresented in the government killings, and I'm going to call them government killings because that's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
You can dress it up in whatever euphemism you like. I just, we see representation in everything else, certainly in positions of privilege. I just want to see if the percentage of demographics killed are representative of the demographics that live in the country. And if it's not the case, I'm going to have to wonder if there's some skullduggery afoot. Not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I get the feeling it's going to be mostly native Brits killed, just like it's mostly native Canadians killed. Mad theory, I'm just putting it out there.
Yep. Says it will head to the House of Lords, and peers are not expected to block its progress. though opponents said they would continue to fight the bill there. Royal assent is widely expected by the end of the year. And it didn't happen by the end of the year, but it looks like it's going to happen by the end of this year. It will give people with less than 6 months to live in England and Wales the right to an assisted death after approval from 2 doctors and a panel, including a psychiatrist, social worker, and senior lawyer. So I didn't know you called them lawyers over there. I thought you called them barristers.
We do. It's a bit of both.
We keep adopting American English because we hear so much of it in the TV shows we watch.
So you guys are adopting the bastard child. That's great.
Yeah. British people can speak American English, but Americans can't speak English.
My cousins say math instead of maths.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all one subject here. It's just there's different iterations of it. So, which is, we don't think of them as different maths. They're all math. It's just very confusing, I guess.
And my little cousin started speaking in an American accent now. She's only 4.
Oh boy.
Because she watches a lot of American TV.
That's going to make it difficult for her over there, isn't it?
Apparently American children, when they watch so much Peppa Pig, start speaking in English accents.
Yeah, see, with my generation, it wasn't Peppa Pig, it was Doctor Who.
There you go. But yeah, imagine the other way around. Like British people see loads of American TV from cradle to grave. So yeah, we're very familiar with American vernacular, and we're mostly speaking it now, which is fine because they're pretty fucking similar, to be honest.
Yeah. Opening the debate.
I still put a U in color.
You still what?
I still put a U in color.
Color. Yeah. That always throws me for a loop. When I see it, I want to pronounce it differently, but I'm not exactly sure how. Opening the debate, Ledbetter said, I'm going to keep saying Ledbetter until somebody corrects me. Said now was the time to seize the moment to correct the profound injustices of the status quo. It's profoundly injustice that we're not killing people, guys. Just want you to know that. And to offer a compassionate and safe choice to terminally ill people who want to make it. The Labour MP for Spin Valley said it was not a choice between living and dying. It is a choice for terminally ill people about how they die. She said rejecting the bill was not a neutral act. It is a vote for the status quo. Notice they're not saying a specific thing. It's a vote for pain. It's a vote for torture. It's a vote for anything bad. Just, it's a vote for the status quo. What is the status quo?
Kill Whitey, clearly.
The status quo in the U.S., where we don't have a federal right to die. I guess there's some states that do have, like Dr. Kevorkian years ago got that started. There's a few states that do have
Oregon has the right to die.
Yeah, Oregon. But if in Ohio, for instance, I don't think we have it here. We don't necessarily say, oh, well, you don't have the right to die, therefore we're going to ignore your final wishes. If you have you can have a do not resuscitate order. You can actually have it posted in your hospital room. You can have it they put a bracelet on you that has DNR on it, so that they know that if you code, that they don't traumatize you on your way to the other side. So it's not. What's the status quo in the UK? Do they have do not resuscitate order?
They have. They have this for disabled people specifically.
I thought that might be the case. Or if you have a terminal illness and you're going to die anyway, there hits a point where trying to resuscitate is just a cruelty. But It's doesn't necessarily mean that we can
I
poison people to death.
I think I have that as well on my file.
It's quite possible. And sometimes if people are deemed at some point to not be able to make that decision for themselves, it's often made for them. But it is definitely something that, like, both of my parents, when they got to the level of illness and infirmity, that they knew that the next kind of crash they had was not, they weren't going to survive it. They both went through that process. Mom when she had COVID, and Dad when he was in the hospital with his injury, and they'd already brought the crash cart in and had to resuscitate him once, and he didn't want to go through it again. And he said his heart couldn't take it. Dad had, his heart was at 25% effectiveness. So he was really, the way that he was looking at it was, if they keep trying to do this every time his heart stopped, eventually it wasn't going to work, but they would keep traumatizing him over and over again with it. And there's a point at which you stop arguing with God and you go home. And that was pretty much the way he put it when he decided to get the DNR bracelet, which I was opposed to it until I really understood. I really didn't understand until after everything was over. But because he was still capable, I couldn't override it, and wouldn't have tried, because he really was still capable. But a lot of the time, the status quo is, we're not going to force you to live if you are dying a natural death, if you are dying because it's your time, right? So what they're saying here is a vote for the status quo. When they're saying a vote for the status quo, what they are saying is a vote for not killing people. Rejecting the bill is not a neutral act, it's a vote for not killing people. Doesn't sound quite as, it's a vote for the status quo. It's such doublespeak. And it fills me with despair to think MPs could be here in another 10 years' time hearing the same stories. Terminally ill people and families were in the public galleries watching the debate, and at a rally in Parliament Square. Dame Esther Ranson, terminally ill with lung cancer, whom, I hope I didn't butcher her name, whom Starmer promised he would...
Right.
Oh, good. Promised he would make parliamentary time to debate the bill, said she had never quite believed it would come to pass. It won't come in my lifetime. I won't live long enough, but I am so relieved it will help future generations to look forward to a good death. I am astonished I have lived to see the moment, she said. So here's where they're definitely promoting it. They're quoting the pros, not necessarily so much the cons, but they're quoting the pros, and they're talking about it as if like nobody questioned the status quo thing, right? And they're commenting it as if it is a battle to do the right thing against people who don't want to do the right thing. You're either for pro right thing or anti right thing, but you're not pro wrong thing. Notice there is no wrong thing they can describe except status quo. So they go on with, concerns were raised by disability activists who held a protest outside Parliament, and MPs opposed to the bill made passionate pleas that it would lead to people being coerced into ending their lives early. The Bishop of London, Sarah Mullally, a former chief nursing officer for England, said that it would be a service introduced amid multiple risks to the most vulnerable, including serious shortfalls in social and palliative care. So for anybody that doesn't know and doesn't want to look it up, palliative care is the care that we talked about a little earlier with regard to hospice. They come in and provide care to somebody who is on death's doorstep or on their deathbed, basically.
That's the care that my uncle received before he passed.
Yeah, and it's basically supposed to remove as much of the suffering as possible from your death, and it's supposed to help your family so that they're not struggling as much with the situation. One of the issues is that it is an angelic job. There aren't very many people who are capable of doing it, and even if they are, burnout it hits you harder in types of care where you're losing people, and it hits you harder in types of care where you see people fade. So you get really burned out in ER, you get really burned out working in nursing homes, and you get really burned out in palliative care. Because of that, there's a shortage of workers in that area, like all those areas. And so you end up in a situation where there aren't enough people to go around and everybody's overworked. So there's one shortfall, right? The next one they're going to mention here. It does not prevent terminally ill people who perceive themselves to be a burden to their families and friends from choosing assisted dying, she said. And it would mean that we become a society where the state fully funds a service for terminally ill people to end their own lives, but shockingly only funds around 1/3 of palliative care. So people in need of palliative care are being denied funding by a system that pays for medical care. Universal health care is telling them, no, you can't have palliative care, or you aren't getting a full assistance with your palliative care. But they'll pay to kill you. This is one of the big fears, and it's something that's been happening in Canada, right? Where people are denied coverage for health care that's treatable, or for health conditions that are treatable, mental health conditions and things like that aren't terminal. But then they're allowed to go through with medical assisted death. And that's happened in Oregon as well. Opening the debate for those opposed to the bill, the former Foreign Secretary James Cleverly said he was an atheist but had rejected the bill because he believed the right safeguards were not in place. So this is something that we have to hope has changed. Because if there are not safeguards in place, a bill like this could allow somebody who is experiencing depression with suicidal ideation to act on that ideation and use the state mechanism to make it happen. We were promised the gold standard, a judicially underpinned set of protections and safeguards, he said, citing concerns from professional bodies, including the Royal College of Psychiatrists. I disagree with Ledbetter's assessment that it is now or never, and it is this bill or no bill, and that to vote against this at third reading is a vote to maintain the status quo. None of those things are true. So here's where we're going to get off track a little bit. One of the stories my parents told me when I was growing up was how the state that we live in and the country that we live in ended up with such powerful teachers unions, school teachers unions. There is a thing that the authoritarian left does with bills, laws, changes to the structure of your society that I'm sure the right probably does it too. But this is an interesting point. This happens with unions. This happens with laws and policies. Right? It happens with curriculum and education. It happens with everything that they want to get done. They will blunt force attack, brute force attack, like they're trying to figure out your password with, we're going to reintroduce this over and over again, and we're going to take a vote on it over and over again until it passes. And we're not going to determine that it's a settled issue until we get enough people to vote for it that it passes.
That's what they do with this bill.
Mm-hmm. So the one thing that they do is they change the wording of what they're doing. Another thing they do is they'll change the rules on the vote. For instance, in Ohio, to get the teachers unions in so that Ohio is a closed shop in the public education system, you have to be in the union to be part of the education system, or rather, you can't be involved in a competing service like a professional association. They had the teachers en masse vote on this over and over again, and couldn't get all of the school systems to agree. So they went to an individual vote, but instead of voting on, each school system, whether they would become part of a union or not, they had the individual vote whether the entire state would unionize or not. And the urban areas they were able to take. They didn't bother with the rural areas. So the professional association that the teachers and the school system that I grew up in were a part of ended up having to be dissolved because the urban school teachers outvoted the rural school teachers and forced the union on every public school in the state. And what they did in the state, the National Education Association did throughout the country. And so every state deals with the NEA. And they did that. They voted on it every year for like 10 years or something, and then they never voted on it again. And businesses get hit with the same thing. Union votes. They'll push a vote every year until they get a majority yes for the union, and then the employees are unionized, and the company has to deal with it or close up shop and move. And then after that, they never vote again. And it's been my opinion that like labor unions, teachers unions, all of that, they should just have a vote every year, regardless. They should never stop voting every year. If the workers are no longer satisfied, then the union no longer has a hold on that business. But that's not how they do it. And with these laws, I think most legislation should get revisited. And Violence Against Women Act has to be revisited. I think every 2 years they have to reauthorize it. And there's always the possibility that they could say, no, we're not going to reauthorize. Right now, you have two gynocentric sides of the political fence arguing over the color of the bill. It's pink. No, it's light red. right? That's basically it. But as more and more of the mainstream becomes aware of men's issues, there might be bigger changes come along. They might degender it. That would piss the feminists off something awful. And there might be other things, but it expires if they don't reauthorize it. The budget has to be redone every year. Why shouldn't something like this have to be revisited annually? How many people are dying? Well, why are they dying? What's the statistics on this? Let's debate, is this law really the way that we want it to be? Should we change it? Should we eliminate it? Should we make it extremely strict and keep the extremely strict version? And it should be that way. It should not be something that they vote in and then it's just there forever. But that seems to be what happens with a lot of this. And a lot of the times you get lifetime politicians, people that enter the Senate in their 30s and die on their way to their last Senate meeting, that just rubber stamp everything that's already been passed. So people have to be very politically active. And it definitely has to be something that needs to be revisited. With VAWA, it's every other year. With something like this, as it's life or death, right? It should, at least for the first 10 years, be revisited annually. And then after that, if you haven't tweaked it enough that it doesn't need revisited again, it should be abandoned. Well, we can't get this straight, so let's dump it. We're not going to have a law like this anymore. And after that, maybe they can revisit it once every 5 to 10 years. But that's just my opinion. Politicians, on the other hand, some of them are saying it's now or never, because they don't know that people will ever approve it. You got to approve it now so that we can stop talking about this, right? The cabinet was deeply split on the legislation. Cabinet members to join Starmer voting in favor included Rachel Reeves, Yvette Cooper, John Healey, Liz Kendall, Pat McFadden, Heidi Alexander, Ed Miliband, Steve Reed, and Peter Kyle.
All retarded communists. Opinion discarded. Carry on.
Ed Miliband missed out being Prime Minister because he couldn't eat a bacon sandwich properly.
Yes.
Oh, gosh, that's really bad. How can you not eat a bacon sandwich properly?
He's a very awkward man.
Yeah.
He's a fucking politician. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Among those opposed were Angela Rayner, Bridget Phillipson, Jonathan Reynolds, Wes Streeting, Shabana Mahmood, and is it Mahmood?
Yeah.
And Jones.
All retarded communists. Opinion discarded. I want to hear what any of these politicians feel about the death penalty. When it comes to mass murderers and mass rapists and mass gang rapists. Like, do they think any of them should be subjected to death, or just grandma when she has a fucking bruise on her hip? Like, when is death an acceptable outcome? Is it the people who pose a danger to others, or people who absolutely do not pose a danger to others? It's weird, isn't it?
Albert Nader Retro gave us $5 Canadian and said, actually, Hannah, unions have elections. And if you aren't happy with the people running things, they can vote in new people. There you go. That's not what I was talking about. That's how democracy works, he says. No, democracy is if you have to vote on whether or not to have a union once, after the union is in, you don't stop on voting on whether or not to have a union. That's democracy. If you can only vote on who gets to be your master, you're still a slave. If you can only vote on who gets to skim, this is why you don't argue with an ANCAP about stuff like this. I disagree with it the same reason that I disagree with having a government. Right? I don't like the idea that we're voting new people in here either. I don't think there should be people in. I don't think there should be cute computers in. I don't think there should be any calculating thing in. There shouldn't be an in. Burn the in down. No, don't do that. But I don't think that it should exist. We have to work with it because it does, and you deal with the way things are, not the way you want them to be. But I feel the same way about unions as I do about the government, because they are still an authoritarian system. They decide who gets to work and who doesn't. Yes, Michael. Yes, I am. But not a communist. I think that's bullshit. The labor peer Charlie Falconer will take over. Oh, yeah, I did read that. Okay. Will take over shepherding the bill through the Lords with backing from conservative peers Michael Forsyth and the former Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack. Or for the Gen Xers listening, Alistair. This would be, of course, Americans that grew up watching Nickelodeon. You should the bill pass the Lords, there will be no provision in place for a number of years. Really? It takes that long?
Yeah, it's a very slow process.
Wow. See, it's different. It doesn't take that long. Usually, if a bill passes the House and the Senate here in the US, it gets sent to the president's desk. And once the president has had an opportunity to have, his advisors go over it, and he understands that it either gets signed into law or he vetoes it. If he vetoes it, then they can still override that veto with, I believe it's the 2/3 majority, which is they have a rough time getting 51% on a lot of stuff. But it can be done. It can happen. It has, I think, once in the past, at least. But it's a possibility.
A prime minister
not likely.
A prime minister has more power than a president, believe it or not. It's like a party in a constitutional monarchy has more power than a party in a republic. Weirdly enough, it just takes ages. It's much like the health system. Like in America, it will cost you an arm and a leg. In Britain, it'll cost you nothing, but it'll take years.
Well, and then if it costs you nothing, who does it cost?
Well, it'll cost you your taxes. It'll cost you everyone's taxes.
That's the ultimate question. This is, again, ANCAP. Nothing is free. Nothing the government does for anybody is free, because you're paying taxes to fund that shit. So that's one of the reasons why people who have no likelihood, in their family of anybody being terminally ill, to have a stake in a bill like this, even if the possibility is vanishingly remote, your tax dollars are going to pay for it. There was a huge debate for years.
In this case, our tax pounds.
Mm-hmm. It makes your money sound heavy. here in the United States, there's been a big debate going on for years about whether the government should be supporting organizations that perform abortions, because slightly more than half of the public some years and slightly less than half of the public other years, but overall I think historically it's been slightly more than half, are pro-life. They oppose at the very least elective abortion. And if you define pro-life as an individual who opposes elective abortion but supports it in circumstances where it's necessary to prevent the death of the mother due to complications of the pregnancy, it's well more than half the public. If you throw in circumstances where there's been a DNA test or something and the fetus is going to be profoundly disabled and suffer and die, it's an even larger majority fits into the pro-life. And if you throw in tolerance for abortions in the case of rape, most people are pro-life. If you had a law that would outlaw abortion except under those circumstances, most of the public would support it. I'd be the only pro-lifer that is out there going, no, we should get women to stop having abortions on their own, even though I don't think they will.
They see it as a form of birth control.
Yeah. I think they see it as a form of man control. Albert Nader Retro gave us another $10 and says, Part 1, by the way, I'm disgusted with the misuse of assisted suicides. It sure does give you Americans an excuse to ignore the tyrannic adventures of Orange Hitler. Your imaginary friends are not my problem, Albert. Albert Nader Retro gave us $20 and said, Part 2, our annex Canada, annex Greenland, kidnap a president and his first lady, demanded the leader of another country step down, lie about the Gordie Howe Bridge and Canada's involvement in Afghanistan. We get it. You watch CNN, you don't vet your news stories. But none of this is about Trump. We're discussing a UK law. So your Trump derangement syndrome is effectively diagnosed by bringing Trump up in a live stream that isn't even about him. That's pretty sad.
I still have my Trump hat that somebody got me at ICMI.
Oh, that's funny. Do people get mad at you for it in the UK?
I don't wear it because I don't want to get beaten up.
You know, it's funny. People told me that because I'm in an urban area, I would have that problem. So during the COVID crisis, just to really piss people off, I got a mask, like one of those cloth masks that doesn't do jack shit, that had Trump written on the front of it. Wore it all over Beaver Creek, which is real close to the Dayton border. It's a suburb. In between Beaver Creek and Dayton is another suburb called Riverside. Wore it all around Riverside. I wore it all around Huber Heights, which is to the north of Dayton and Beaver Creek and Riverside. No problems whatsoever. So then I got courageous and I went into Dayton wearing it. Still no problems. Not even in the downtown. Nobody said a damn word. Nobody cared. Like here, this is an area that's much more diverse in opinions than people think. And I think a lot of the cities that are not LA or New York or anything like that, any big super blue cities, I think most mid-sized and smaller cities are a lot redder than people think. Most of the neighborhoods in this area are pretty red. Trump signs were everywhere during all three of the last 3 elections. Art Force, I like Beaver Creek. I just don't like driving there. I think I made a song about that on an AI app. I put that out a little while ago. So 4 years. The government and NHS have 4 years to implement the bill. Though Ledbetter has said she hoped it would be ready sooner. They can't start killing people soon enough, guys. There are no answers as yet to whether the NHS would provide the service or private providers, whether it would be free at the point of use. Now, this leads me to a very serious question. All right. So, Mike and Richard, if it takes up to 4 years to implement a bill after it's been passed by both houses and signed by the prime minister, what happens if they decide that it's a bad law and they want to repeal it? Does it take up to 4 years to get rid of it after that?
It's never happened before, but yeah, it takes a long time. It may take up to 4 to 5 years in total.
That's insane.
It depends what the bill does. If it makes the lives of British natives worse, they'll speed it through as quickly as they can. I guess that's what happened with the jabs.
Yeah.
And the online safety bill.
What if they get an extreme amount of pushback from people? What if it becomes like,
oh, they don't care.
It depends. If they can just say no, all of your complaints are racist, then none of those complaints matter. If they can say all of your complaints are misogynist, then none of those complaints matter.
So imagine for a second that they get to a point, whatever has happened after the bill has passed, convinces enough of the members of Parliament and the members of the House of Lords that this bill needs to be repealed, and so they debate it for however long they have to debate it to do that, and decide to repeal the bill, and each of the houses votes to repeal the bill, and the bill to repeal the law. The bill to repeal the law goes to the prime minister's desk and gets signed. How long does it take them to enact the repeal?
2 years.
Jeez, that's insane. So they would continue to kill people for that amount of time.
Yeah.
See, if the president signed into law something that says we are now going to outlaw assisted suicide in the United States, after an assisted suicide bill had passed, we are repealing the assisted suicide law, and it's now illegal. As soon as it was confirmed, it was on the books, it would be enforceable.
But it doesn't have to go through your Senate and Congress.
Yeah, but that's before it's signed and on the books. It goes through Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate, and then goes to the president's desk and he signs it. But once he's signed it, that's it. There isn't any further to do. Like, it gets put into actual into the actual records, and it might get communicated to the states and communicated to the law enforcement agencies, but it's law after it's been signed. That's it. That's day one. There's no 2-year waiting period. There's no nothing that it takes them that long to implement it. As soon as it is in place, it's in place. The only time that's not the case is if the law says that the government has to do something, like they're going to make a department for something, and that department has to do things. Then it's going to take the amount of time it takes to create a business, basically, to build. They may even have people in mind for it already, but there would still be some time that it would have. And yeah, unless the bill has a clear effective date of enforcement, like they might say this starting January 1st of next year, this is the law, and then it will start that day. But otherwise, it's immediate. The same thing when Supreme Court rules on something.
Yeah, Parliament works very slowly. So.
Wow. I thought the speed of government here was slow. Jeez, Pete.
Again, it depends on the outcome for the British people. If it makes life better for us, it will take infinite years, and it will never happen. If it makes life worse for us, they'll fast track it, and it'll be done in 60 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it goes on. By the way, Thomas Cook, thanks for reminding me about the effective date of enforcement. I didn't mean to not mention you. Let's see, it goes on. Terminally ill patients with a prognosis of 6 months will have to be of sound mind to proceed, but MPs rejected an amendment that would have prevented anyone from accessing the service on the basis of feeling too much of a burden to loved ones. Well, and I looked at the bill. They don't actually have to be of sound mind either. It looks like if you are not of sound mind, someone else can make the decision on your behalf or assess your interest in it and agree with you or disagree with you. Like they get veto power. There will be criminal sanctions on any family member found to be coercing someone to choose to hasten their deaths. Through the debate, proponents of the bill sought to argue that MPs could not allow the status quo to persist. They keep using that term, right? Status quo, status quo. Status quo is just the way things are right now. That's what that means. Status quo is the current status. Like right now, the status quo is that in the United States is if your income is under a certain level, the government will help you buy food for at least a certain period of time. Right? That's the status quo.
And right now in the UK, the status quo is don't kill people. And that's what we need to undo. But once the status quo is do kill people, and be like, oh, we have to maintain the status quo. It's what we've always done. It's the right thing to do.
Yep. But yeah, status quo can mean just any current thing that is. So if I were to challenge the left on the idea that the status quo is bad, that would be the status quo. Okay, well, the current status quo in welfare is if you are under a certain income level, you get assistance for a period of time under certain conditions. Should we eliminate that? Because it's the status quo. Albert Interretro gave us another $10 Canadian, said, I guess you forgot I was a Canuck for Trump every time he ran. I have a video explaining it. Thing is, TDS goes both ways. Okay, you already don't understand TDS right there. And you're at the other extreme. I don't have cable, so I can't watch CNN. No, Trump derangement syndrome isn't about whether you love or hate Trump. It's about being obsessed with Trump. You have it. You can't talk about anything but Trump. This conversation that we're in right now isn't about Trump, and you're upset because it's not about Trump. That bothers you. But this is a very important issue. Male suicide is a very important issue. And a law that allows the medical establishment to start suiciding people for, at their own request can be very dangerous, especially if the UK goes the same route as your country did and starts suiciding people with depression so they don't have to pay for Prozac or therapy. The Labour MP David Burton Sampson said his Christian beliefs had meant he was initially against assisted dying, but the exertions from constituents who had described their loved ones dying in excruciating pain had persuaded him to support it. See, this is where it gets difficult for me. There are conditions where I can understand somebody wanting to have an assisted death. And I can understand exactly why, that they would want to escape what's coming, when they know, based on their diagnosis, how bad it's going to be. When you get a diagnosis and you find out that in your future, even if you just find out there's a very high risk of something awful, you'll go through a little bit of a grieving process, and then you start bargaining. And part of that might mean you start living more healthy. But also part of that, you develop a magical thinking, right? You go through half your life and you get a diagnosis like that. You might think, well, if I do all the right things now, maybe it won't happen, right? Maybe I won't lose my kidneys like my dad. But that's not the way it always works. You start looking at symptoms. Maybe I won't have strokes like my grandma, but that's not the way it works. Every time you lose your keys after that, you're like, oh, has it started? So if you get a terminal diagnosis and the terminal end of it is known to usually be very painful, the level of dread that comes with that is going to be significantly higher. And it would look very promising and very tempting to just hit the escape button and not have to deal with that. I think most people would see that escape button very differently from inside that situation than they see it from outside that situation.
Just let people kill themselves. I don't get how difficult this is. I mean, you could say once someone is so deep into a terminal illness, that they want to kill themselves, they're no longer of sound mind, especially if it's something like Alzheimer's or something that they can't be trusted with their own lives. But putting the government in charge of this does nothing to solve this problem, because it's just passing the buck onto someone else who's making these medical decisions. If anything, it should be up to the family. Ideally, it should be up to the person to decide when they take their life and by what means they take their life. And I suppose that's when it becomes difficult, because general members of the public aren't allowed access to any weapon or drug that could be instrumental in ending their lives. And yeah, I get that this is a weird twist in the situation, where if members of the general public were allowed access to weapons or drugs that could kill themselves, then they might do it when they don't need to do it. But again, you're not solving this by putting the government in charge of it. You're just taking freedom away from people when it comes to their own lives and their own bodies, and taking freedom away from the family members of whoever that person is. And I don't know what the happy medium is, I guess. When a person is in the last 6 months of terminal illness, maybe they can plead with the government to give them the necessary drugs or something, but I guess that could be corrupted too. But nothing's more corruptible than the government, is what I'm saying. For all of these options when it comes to giving people the rights and the permissions over their own bodies. I mean, it's no better if you pass the buck onto the government, as though the government is is a better arbiter of when a person should live than the person themselves or their family members. It just it doesn't seem to solve any problems. It doesn't seem to make any sense when you could simply give people the legal right to take their own lives in whatever way they see fit. And yeah, people are going to argue that they're not going to do it properly. Well, maybe the government's not going to fucking do it properly either. Like,
any authority is gonna. They're not gonna have your best interests in mind. They're gonna have their best interests in mind, and at the absolute kindest, their best interest won't be you individually. It will be the population that they're an authority over. And at the worst, it'll be their financial bottom line, or some sort of prejudice, or a combination of both. With chronic pain care, as a family member of a few patients with severe, debilitating chronic pain, lifelong chronic pain that was going to get worse over the course of their lives and never go away. I watched it go from, we'll pay for physical therapy if it's effective and prevents it from getting worse, to, we'll only pay for physical therapy if you're going to get better and recover, not permanently. Just you have to do that temporarily, and then you got to permanently be better. But we'll cover your pain meds. To, we don't cover physical therapy, that's on you, but we'll give you all the drugs you need. To, these drugs are expensive, I mean dangerous, and we have to limit how much you can take. To, these drugs are expensive, I mean dangerous, and we have to severely limit how much you can take. To, these drugs are expensive and I mean dangerous. We got to get you off these drugs. We're not going to do anything else for you, and it's too late for the physical therapy because it's been 20 or 30 years and now you can't really benefit from it anymore. So there's damage that's been done by the medications that we gave you. Sorry, you're just out of luck. You're going to have to learn to live with the pain now that it's 10 times worse. I don't have any faith in the insurance system turning around then and covering pain meds for people with terminal illnesses. They're going to turn around and say, no, we'll cover your death. Well, we'll cover a third of your death. The rest is on your family. I don't think this would do well in the United States. And I don't know how things are in the UK, but 2/3 of the opiate epidemic here in the US, is at least 2/3, probably more like 5/6 of it, is oncologists and other doctors that treat conditions that cause chronic pain being prosecuted for prescribing medications to treat their clients, their patients' health symptoms.
Fentanyl isn't that bad over here yet.
See, they're not going after it on the street as effectively as they go after it in the doctor's office and in the pharmacy. And they go after the patients too. And then they make you go to a pain clinic. And then they go after the doctor in your pain clinic. And then they make you go to rehab. Like that's, and of course you have to pay for it.
What's opioid? Is it like fentanyl?
Opioids are anything that comes from the poppy, specifically I think it's California poppy. One of the flowers that I am severely allergic to, the entire plant. It includes morphine, heroin, fentanyl, methadone, which is what they give you to get off of heroin. And I think there's another opiate, codeine.
Is that why they went to Afghanistan? Allegedly.
Yep. Well, the Taliban was growing it and selling it here. Before fentanyl, there was a heroin trade here in the U.S. that was really out of control, and that was coming from Afghanistan.
That was with the French connection and Vietnam.
Yep. So, and a lot of it's just basically about money. If it wasn't, then they would be focusing on the street drugs. But they're not. They're focusing on the doctor's offices. We got a super chow that I missed at 8:18 p.m. I apologize for that. We got $50 from the official Reverse Traditionalism channel on YouTube, who said, just to clarify for Doc, if it doesn't derail, reverse traditionalism just refers to the gender traditionalism that we know only really started in the 1950s when moms started staying at home, or from 250 years ago when the tender years made the mother get custody in the divorce. Reverse trad is stay-at-home dads to protect custody and anti-feminism, if not the gender-neutral values of trad too, like monogamy. Feminists don't actually support stay-at-home dads because they are the ones talking about how women supposedly suffer greater rates of domestic abuse in those relationships. Allison said it might be necessary in the context of 90% or more jobs going to women in certain fields nowadays. Sorry for the long thing. So I don't know, Mike, if you want to respond to that. Unless you're not in. Mike must have gone out for a cigarette.
Yeah, he's on the cigarette break.
So, just on a side note, tradcons. What tradcons have wrong is this idea that there was a before and after with women working. That's not where the division was. Okay, there was an upper class and a lower class. In the upper class, in the wealthy and what might be considered upper middle class now, back then, there was, women could have careers in things like writing or, artwork. They might even become tutors. They might do other prestigious things, but they didn't necessarily go out and earn a living to support their family. They did things for their own prestige, or because they had some degree of creativity or drive to do something, and that was it. They didn't have to earn money. They had the support of a husband that earned plenty of money, enough to make them comfortable. Then in the lower classes, like lower middle class to poor, you had women working because they had to. Right? There was no before women worked for poor people. You would be somebody's cook, or you would clean house for wealthier women. Possibly those women that are writing novels or doing tutoring at some wealthier person's home. Governesses might be higher income level, unless they're really young. Stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe traditionalism versus anti-traditionalism is something of a false dichotomy.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a middle ground, like in some kind of mutual dowry, or something, where both parties in a marriage have to offer some work and some stay-at-home stuff. I don't know, and I know that sort of plays into this whole scam where now men and women both have to work jobs just in order to raise a small family. But at the same time, what are we going to do with all these useless children pretending to be adult women? Like,
that's the difficult question, isn't it?
It's reached a fever pitch. And something has to be done to make sure that women are fucking doing something. Women are proving their worth in the world, because we're at a point where women don't have to prove shit to anyone, and men have to prove everything. And yeah, that could be called traditionalism. It could be called all kinds of things. Like feminism is just hyper-traditionalism. Well, feminism is just hyper-gynocentrism, and gynocentrism is just hyper-traditionalism. And then you have to go, well, like I said earlier, some traditions make sense because they have a track record, and some traditions don't make any sense. It's just a ritual that we've been doing for ages, despite it making everything worse. And it's difficult to pin anything down, because in the last 1,000 years of romantic chivalry, where men have been coerced into doing obscene amounts of work just in order to be a man, but in this environment where men have to do that, we've made quite astonishing leaps and bounds in technology. And you know, for all the complaints we make about what modern life is like, the technology that men have produced in the last thousand years or so has made life so much easier. And I just think we could possibly move into a world where men do that for their own benefits, for the benefits of everyone, rather than just for the benefit of women. And I think we've gone far enough. We've reached the point where we've created machines that can do almost every job that the human beings can do. And I think at this point we can be like, all right, you know that free pass that we give to women, maybe we can give it to men as well. Maybe we can put men in charge of these AI machines that can do everything that we once did. And that way we can appreciate men and what they've been able to do and what they're still able to do, without over-appreciating women and all the things they're capable of doing that men can't do. Yeah, and this goes back to Hannah's now infamous tweet. Like, what can women do that men can't? What valuable thing can women do that men can't do other than gestation? And maybe in light of all that, it's time to change things up a bit. Like, maybe women are no more valuable than men. Imagine that.
Now, if women aren't giving birth, what else have we got? That's and the thing is, everybody got mad at me as if I came up with that idea myself. I was responding to a woman who was angry at another Twitter user, another poster on X that I'm assuming was a dude. I don't even remember the username, who had said something to the effect of, now women are about to lose the most valuable thing they can do. And of course, he was talking about the upcoming, in the whatever distant foreseeable future, artificial uterus, artificial womb, which hasn't actually been made usable yet. And she got mad that was all he valued women for. And it was in response to her that I said, what other valuable thing do women do that men can't? That's all I asked. What else? What else should we be valued for? What else should men put us up on a pedestal for? Or even just be glad women are around for? It's not personality. Most women are lacking in that department severely. So you can't say companionship. Men can have companionship with other men. You can't say sex because men can get that without another human being. Right? They got machines for that. So what is it? Literally, what is it? What's left that you don't have to prove anything and men should just value you? What do you have left? The butt hurt in that thread. I think the Tower of Butt Hurt was taller than the Tower of Babel. It was amazing. It was like that old meme with the poop rockets. The two characters just going up into the sky forever on more and more poop. It just seemed like that, and the more I interacted with women who were expelling butthurt into the thread, the more poop rockets I got from more women expelling more butthurt into the thread. By the end of it, it was like being trapped in the biggest sewer in the entire world. It was amazing. Speaking of poop rockets, we got another super chat. Albert Nader Retro gave us $5 Canadian and said, I gotta gear up for this. I gave it a second shot, but you guys suck. Enjoy the last bit of cash you'll ever get from me. Okay?
Why he crazy?
Well, it's not unusual. There are some people that cannot have a discussion that is not about Donald Trump. That is a problem because there are issues that Donald Trump isn't involved in and doesn't have anything to do with and is unaffected by that are important because they affect average men. They affect below average men. They affect wealthy men. They affect whoever isn't in charge. And in particular, this will affect both sexes, right? But we can't ignore the fact that the majority of suicides are suicide victims. The majority of deaths from suicide are male. And the majority of male suicides occur in the context of other men's issues. The fact that disabled men do not get the same compassion from our society that disabled women get, right?
It's a struggle getting help.
Yeah. The fact that men who are injured in the workplace get treated like a problem instead of a patient. Right? The fact that when a man is divorced, again, he gets treated like a problem instead of a parent. Instead of an ex-husband, he gets treated like a bank. And these are causing men to want to die. Maybe not in huge numbers, but the majority of people who are deciding to die and then acting on it, 3/4 of the people who are deciding to die and then acting on it successfully are men.
And yeah, we're getting killed by our own governments, man. Like, love you, Albert. And I get where you're coming from, because Trump does seem out of his depth in this Iran thing, but he's only killed a few Iranians. I mean, compare that with how many fucking Ukrainians have been killed by the previous government and all this shit that's going on. There's no US president that hasn't killed a bunch of foreigners for some stupid war or other. But we're getting killed by our own government.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Trump's not killing American citizens. Trump has reinforced ICE in a way, and he's killed 2 American citizens in the pursuit of trying to get rid of 20 million
non-Americans,
criminal non-Americans.
Yeah,
but at least he's not killing his own people. Like here in the UK and over in Canada, we're getting killed by our own government. Then they're barely even hiding it anymore. Like it's not an exaggeration to say they want us dead. They hate us and they want us dead. That's exactly what they're doing. They're doing exactly what is consistent with a government that hates its own people and wants them dead. Like, Trump's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but at least he's not killing his own people, and that's what we're talking about. Sorry, dude. This is really important.
Yeah. Yep, and we are going to spend probably at least 3 shows on it. I'm looking at this. Let's see how much of this article is left, because I am not going to finish it. It's 9 o'clock, and we're going to call it. This is where we are, and yeah, it might take us another whole show to get through that. So there we go. But in any case, this is a subject that we're going to focus on until we get our comparisons made and everything. And like I said, there's things that Trump has done. I'm not going to go through a list, but there's things that Trump has done that I'm not happy with, and there's things that he's done that I'm happy with. I don't have a strong enough impulse to talk about Trump that I think we need to make a show about it. I don't think he personally is a men's issue, because he's not doing anything that dramatically different or worse, I should say, than any other president with regard to men. So, and then I'm still waiting to see what's going to happen with the military actions, because the stated goal is, in the long run, to reduce the need for future military action. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to hold my breath. I think every president that's come along has said that, and we always have more excuses for war. So, speaking of our governments killing our men, with that, I will say we'll come back and we'll start with we'll just reread this paragraph. We'll reread this part, and then we'll go through the rest as we progress next time. Yes, Night Motorcyclist, the Title IX issue is being ruled on. We're going to end up having to talk about that again, no matter what, as well. That's a more complicated issue than people think too, because everybody that's looking at that today is looking at it from the perspective of they don't like or they do like the transgender population, whether they don't like or whether they do like. They're not looking at it as whether there's a right to single-sex spaces or whether there's not a right to single-sex spaces. So they're using female victimhood and demonizing men, biological men, or people who identify as men, as violent and dangerous in order to protect single-sex spaces just for women. But there's a long history of women invading single-sex spaces that are just for men. So they're obviously not afraid of men, because they wouldn't do that if they were.
Every time I talk to a TERF about that, they're very disingenuous about it.
Of course they are. They always say, well, we're not a threat to them. Well, it doesn't matter whether you're a threat to them or not. If you were afraid of them, you wouldn't be going into their spaces. Right? They're not afraid of trans women because trans women are male. They're afraid of trans women because trans women are abnormal. There's a lot of people that are abnormal. Geniuses are abnormal. Highly skilled ballerinas are abnormal. Virtuosos that play like Mozart at 5 years old, abnormal. And rapists are abnormal. You can't put them all in the same group. Abnormal doesn't mean people are bad. Some bad people will imitate protected status to get things they want. And it's fair to suggest that if you have a protected status, you have to police that. And I would say that the trans population is not doing that effectively at all. And that's to their detriment. But the idea that women should have protected spaces because of this tiny population is bullshit. And some of the discussions that have taken place around that are even worse. It's that, again, it goes right back into this bill. If we get to a situation where men are absolutely demonized because of that, and boys are being taught in school that they're dirty and predatory and shouldn't even glance in the direction that a woman might be sitting because the male gaze would pierce her with its laser focus.
Do you remember Laura Bates?
Yep.
She wants to go into the schools again, and I'm kind of worried because she has Jermaine Greer tendencies towards boys.
Mm-hmm. That's really dangerous.
Yeah.
Yep. We don't need to be sending any adult into the school that might be a PDF file. But we do have to take off. But I guess I'll leave it at this. If we allow men and boys to be demonized like that, and our countries are passing laws that allow the government to decide people want to die and then kill them, we're going to get into a situation where some people are going to go along with it. Some men are going to go along with it because they don't have a very good image of themselves. They're raised to believe bad things about themselves that are not true. And by the way, the AC is probably mine, but it's been on through the whole show. Because I am in Ohio, and I can do that if I want. You can report me to the British police all you want.
Don't glue it.
Sorry. But, yeah. But if I didn't have the air conditioner on, I couldn't breathe. So there you go. We will see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks to everybody who sent us super chats, whatever they're called from Rumble rants. And thanks to all my co-hosts for listening to this and talking about it. This is a difficult subject. And it's going to be a dark focus for a while, but we really do have to talk about this.
Portugal are through to the next round of the World Cup. They just won the game.
There you go.
Well, I've been half paying attention to this and the World Cup.
Well, that's not bad. That's not bad. That's a dude thing. So, with that, good night, everybody. We will see you next Thursday.
Arrivederci.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.